The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa, Section 92. I've never done anything but dream. This, and this alone, has been the meaning of my life. My only real concern has been my inner life. My worst sorrows have evaporated when I've opened the window onto the street of my dreams and forgotten myself in what I saw there. I've never aspired to be more than a dreamer. I paid no attention to those who spoke to me of living. I've always belonged to what isn't where I am and to what I could never be. Whatever isn't mine, no matter how base, has always had poetry for me. The only thing I've loved is nothing at all. The only thing I've desired is what I couldn't even imagine. All I asked of life is that it go on by without my feeling it. All I demanded of love is that it never stop being a distant dream. In my own inner landscapes, all of them unreal, I've always been attracted to what's in the distance, and the hazy aqueducts, almost out of sight in my dreamed landscapes, had a dreamy sweetness in relation to the rest of the landscape, a sweetness that enabled me to love them. I am still obsessed with creating a false world, and will until I die. Today, I don't line up spools of thread in chess pawns, with an occasional bishop or knight sticking out in the drawers of my chest, but I regret that I don't. And in my imagination, I line up the characters so alive and dependable who occupy my inner life. And this makes me feel cozy, like sitting by a warm fire in winter. I have a world of friends inside me, with their own real, individual, imperfect lives. Some of them are full of problems, while others live the humble and picturesque life of bohemians. Others are traveling salesmen. To be able to imagine myself as a traveling salesman has always been one of my greatest ambitions, unattainable, alas. Others live in the rural towns and villages of a Portugal inside me. They come to the city where I sometimes run into them, and I open wide my arms with emotion. And when I dream this, pacing in my room, talking out loud, gesticulating, when I dream this and picture myself running into them, then I rejoice. I'm fulfilled. I jump up and down, my eyes water. I throw open my arms and feel a genuine, enormous happiness. No nostalgia hurts as much as nostalgia for things that never existed. The longing I feel when I think of the past I've lived in real time, when I weep over the corpse of my childhood life, this can't compare to the fervor of my trembling grief as I weep over the non-reality of my dreams' humble characters, even the minor ones I recall having seen just once in my pseudo-life. While turning a corner in my envisioned world, or while passing through a doorway on a street that I walked up and down in the same dream. My bitterness over nostalgia's impotence to revive and resurrect becomes a tearful rage against God, who created impossibilities. When I think about how the friends of my dreams, with whom I've shared so much in a make-believe life, and with whom I've had so many stimulating conversations in imaginary cafes, have never had a space of their own where they could truly exist, independent of my consciousness of them. The dead past that survives in me, and that has never been anywhere but in me. The flowers from the garden of the little country house that never existed, except in me. The pine grove, orchards, and vegetable plots of the farm that was only a dream of mine. My imaginary excursions, my outings in a countryside that never existed. The trees along the roadside, the pathways, the stones, the rural folk passing by, all of this, which was never more than a dream, is recorded in my memory, where it hurts. And I, who spent so many hours dreaming these things, now spend hours remembering having dreamt them. And it's a genuine nostalgia that I feel, an actual past that I mourn, a real-life corpse that I stare at, lying there solemnly in its coffin. Then there are the landscapes and lives that weren't exclusively internal. Certain paintings without great artistic merit and certain prints on walls I saw every day became realities in me. My sensation in these cases was different and sadder and more poignant. It grieved me that I couldn't be there too, whether or not the scenes were real. That I couldn't at least be an inconspicuous figure drawn in at the foot of those moonlit woods I saw on a small print in a room where I once slept. And this was after my childhood was quite finished. That I couldn't imagine being hidden there in the woods next to the river, bathed by the eternal, though poorly rendered moonlight, watching the man going by in a boat beneath the branches of a willow tree. In these cases, I was grieved by my inability to dream completely. My nostalgia exhibited other features. The gestures of my despair were different. The impossibility that tortured me resulted in a different kind of anxiety. If all of this at least had a meaning in God, a fulfillment in accord with the tenor of my desires. Fulfilled I don't know where, in a vertical time. Consubstantial with the direction of my nostalgias and reveries. If there could at least be a paradise made of all this, even if only for me. If I could at least meet the friends I've dreamed of, walk along the streets I've created, wake up amid the racket of roosters and hens and the early morning rustling in the country house where I pictured myself, and all of this more perfectly arranged by God, placed in the right order for it to exist, in the form needed for me to possess it, which is something not even my dreams can achieve, for there's always at least one dimension missing in the inward space that harbors these hapless realities. I raise my head from the sheet of paper where I'm writing. It's early still. It's just past noon on Sunday. Life's basic malady, that of being conscious, begins with my body and discomfits me. To have no islands where those of us who are uncomfortable could go, no ancient garden paths reserved for those who've retreated into dreaming. To have to live and to act, however little, to have to physically touch because there are other equally real people in life. To have to be here, writing this, because my soul needs it, and not to be able to just dream it all, to express it without words, without so much as consciousness, through a construction of myself in music and diffuseness, such that tears would well in my eyes as soon as I felt like expressing myself. And I would flow like an enchanted river across gentle slopes of my own self, ever further into unconsciousness and the far away, to no end but God.